Hello, I'm Heather Clements. I'm with the Grants and Community Development Department, and I wanted to welcome you to Channel 24 today. I have a very special guest, and I want to welcome her. Hello, Dr. Sharice West
Hello.
with Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation.
Correct.
Please introduce yourself to us and tell us what Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation does and what you do for them.
Absolutely. My name is Sharice West. I am President and CEO of the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation. We're headquartered in Little Rock, Arkansas, but we do our grant making throughout the entire state of Arkansas.
Okay.
We do grant making in three interrelated areas: education, economic development, economic, racial, and social justice.
Okay.
Our mission is to improve the lives of all Arkansans. We've been around for close to 38 years, and in that 38-year history, we have done over $140 million in grant making throughout the state of Arkansas, including here in Jonesboro. We're actually currently funding the North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative.
Yes.
We also do some grant making at ASU around marginalized males and encouraging males to graduate. They do that here at ASU and in their Blytheville campus. Okay. And we also fund City Youth Ministries in this area.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can speak for the Grants and Community Development Department. We really thank Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation for the funding for our North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative. So thank you, and we
thank
welcome
you for the
you
excellent
today.
work that you guys do there as well.
Thank you. We're very excited. So you're here today. You came from Little Rock to talk to Arkansas State University about a study that was recently published that Rockefeller funded. Can you tell us about that study and what it was and what the data said?
Absolutely. So we funded a profile of immigrants in Arkansas. It is a 3-volume study that's available on our website at wrfoundation.org. The 3 volumes, Volume 1 is on demographics. It's a profile of immigrants demographically here in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
Volume 2 is about the economic benefits that immigrants have in Arkansas. And Volume 3 is on Marshall Islanders. We have the second largest Marshallese population in the United States. Hawaii is first, Arkansas is second. And so we wanted to do a specific profile to educate Arkansans about Marshall Islanders here in our state. And we did a study in 2007, and we repeated it, and the 2007 study used 2000 census data. The 2013 study, the updated profile, uses 2010 census data. What we found is that immigrants are having a positive net economic and social benefit to the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
They are a small but growing population here in Arkansas and contributing positively to Arkansas's economy and to our social fabric.
Okay. That's really interesting, and the implications of that, I'm sure, are just huge, not only for all of Arkansas, but even locally.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about those implications?
Sure. So I'll talk about Arkansas generally, and then hone in on any questions you want to ask about Jonesboro specifically.
Okay.
So generally, immigrants compose 5% of all of Arkansas's population, just 5%. And we did the study because we wanted to provide facts on what is often a very emotional or perception-driven conversation.
Right.
And so the fact is that, again, according to the 2010 census data, immigrants make up 5% of all of Arkansas's population. We are the 4th fastest growing state with immigrants in the United States.
Wow.
We were number 2 some years ago, but we're actually 4th now in the nation. The national average is 13%, and Arkansas is just 5%.
Okay.
So, and we say it's a growing population because the workforce of immigrants have doubled from 2% to 4% in 10 years. It's also fast growing because of their economic contribution to our state.
Right.
So let me tell you a bit about the profile, then I'll tell you about the economic benefits, and then we can converse a bit more about what some of those implications are. So generally, we find that 2/3 of, the 5% that I talked about, 2/3 of that 5% are Latino. The other 1/3 are from other countries across the globe.
Okay.
So in Arkansas, we have a primarily Latino conversation when we talk about immigrants, just because they make up such a huge percentage, 2/3 of that 5% that I just spoke about.
Okay.
Within that 2/3, we're finding that they are homeowners, that they've been here 10 years or more on average, that Latino men have the highest employment rate than any other demographic, even African Americans and whites, here in the state of Arkansas. So they are highly employed. We're also finding that they are concentrated mainly in Washington, Benton, and Sebastian counties, about 44%, 17% in central Arkansas, and then the other 39% are dispersed throughout the state, in rural communities throughout the state. However, the Jonesboro metropolitan area ranks about third or fourth in our state in terms of population. And when we spoke this morning, the mayor said that there was over a 200% increase in the number of Latinos in this community since the 2000 census. So it's pretty significant. We also found, so that's the demographics. The demographics show us that they're pretty much long-term residents. Also, as long-term residents, their kids are actually U.S. citizens. They're working age folks who are immigrants, and being working age also means they're childbearing age. And so many of them are having children, and those children are U.S. citizens, even though their parents are foreign born. And that's important because when I talk about cost next, that becomes an important part in how we factor in education costs. So in terms of economic development, oftentimes the conversation is about the cost that immigrants are to the United States and to Arkansas specifically. Now keep in mind, I said that this is 5% of our population. What we found is that in terms of taxes that are being paid through buying goods and services and paying sales tax, through high employment, because I mentioned 88% of males, Latino males in particular, are employed, which means that they're contributing to taxes through being employed. I also mentioned that 50% of Latinos in particular, immigrants, are homeowners. Of that, 2/3 are homeowners. So already you have property tax. Even if you're renting, you're paying property tax through a pass-through. So when you're buying goods and services and the like, you are paying taxes and contributing. So we found that through paying goods and services and paying taxes, they contribute about $3.9 billion to Arkansas's economy. There is a cost. That cost is defined as education. Again, keeping in mind that many of these, while their parents are foreign born, we're talking about educating U.S. citizens, Arkansans. Education, the justice system, and health are the three primary factors that we looked at in terms of essential services and cost. We found that number to be $555 million. When you subtract $555 million from $3.9 billion, that leaves $3.4 billion in net economic benefit to Arkansas. So for every $1 that is spent by state and local government on immigrants, there's actually a $7 return to the state of Arkansas. So having immigrants in our state is a net positive economic benefit. So that's what our study found.
That's wonderful, especially in terms of the economic benefit, because we all have a cost. I know that there is an emotional debate across the country about immigration right now, but immigrants are not the only people of the United States that have a cost. We all have a cost.
We don't pay for ourselves. You know, in terms of how much we consume around education, basic goods and services, healthcare, and the like, we don't pay for ourselves. Well, that's really interesting in terms of the economic benefit. I'm sure that everybody can appreciate a return on an investment. And they can understand that. If not anything, they can understand that. In terms of local implications, I know that you're aware of the Hispanic Services Center here in Jonesboro. The executive director is Gina Gomez. We partner with them a lot at the City of Jonesboro, especially with the Community Development Office. Did you get a chance to tour the Hispanic Services Center and have a conversation with Ms. Gomez about this data? Yes. So Ms. Gomez has been a wonderful host to us while we've been here. She's talked with us one-on-one about the Latinos that she works with, and she's talked about them being from Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico. Again, the other misnomer is that, you know, there's just this influx of of Mexicans or Mexican Americans, and Latino really is Latin America. So it's quite a few countries, not just Mexico.
Exactly.
And so she talked to us about that and the excellent work that they're doing at the Hispanic Center in terms of working with youth, serving youth, and even the importance of having Latinos have a community and a center that they feel comfortable going to talk about things such as pathway to citizenship, what they're experiencing with employment in the area, how to get services to their kids, how to ensure that, especially the young people, there's this real passion about ensuring that the young people, the next generation, has access and opportunity to all that Jonesboro has to offer. And in addition to English language learners and being translators and helping people whenever they run into challenges at school or at the court system or just here at City Hall. So she talked to us about the range of services that they provide there, and it seems to be an important organization for this area. She also talked with us that she's participated in the Latino Leadership Academy.
Oh, okay.
That the foundation also funds.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was because she's a new CEO or ED in the area. They come to these leadership positions, like many of us, not knowing how to raise money, how to put together a board, what the laws are around 501c3s, how to build leadership capacity. And so, again, because this is a burgeoning community here in our state, the foundation felt it was important that these nonprofit leaders have access and opportunity to leadership development and learning. So she's actually a graduate of the academy as well. So we're pretty pleased and proud to have her be a graduate of that academy.
That's wonderful. Yeah, the Hispanic Services Center truly is an asset for this community and for this population for sure. And you mentioned earlier the pathway to citizenship. I know, again, that's a hot topic of discussion right now. And you said that 5% of immigrants are Latino in the state of Arkansas?
So 5% of all immigrants. So that means Asian immigrants, Eastern European immigrants, African immigrants. So it's 5%. Of the 5%, 2/3 are Latino.
Okay, and what percentage of those immigrants, the 5%, are actually documented? So
of the 5%, 2% are undocumented.
Okay.
But again, it's important to recognize that there is a path to citizenship. And in terms of public policy and what the foundation is talking about around public policy, it is for Arkansas to be thoughtful and intentional about how we create pathways to citizenship as a state. So that it is a myth or a misnomer that we have so many folks here illegally. That's just not the truth. And even those who are undocumented, they're in some form of obtaining documentation or in some form of a pathway to citizenship. And it takes a long time. I don't think the average citizen, because we're all citizens, we don't have to do it. The average citizen doesn't realize the amount of time that it takes, and it's expensive. And when you multiply that by many people in your family, you can speak of upwards of a couple of $1,000s to pay for that process. It includes legal services. It includes fees for the documents and many other things that you have to do on that pathway.
Yeah, I just wanted you to mention that briefly because I do think there is this notion that it's an easy process, and that's just not the case.
And
it is not an easy process.
It's not an easy process, and it's not safe to assume that the newcomers to our state aren't in some way on that pathway to citizenship. So many who are encouraged to come, whether they come for work, are here on work visas. Or if they come as students, they're as student visas, seeking political asylum. I mean, there are different statuses and methodologies and processes. There's really 4 main ones, but I don't want to get complicated in describing it. I just want it to be noted, as you're pointing out, though, that it's the assumption shouldn't be their legal status. Because many are here legally. The challenge is where they are on their pathway to citizenship, if citizenship is what they're seeking.
And I really think the best way locally is to embrace this population and incorporate this fascinating culture into the overall culture and intertwine everybody.
Absolutely.
I really think it adds diversity to the community and makes Jonesboro a really cool place to be.
Absolutely. And what we find with immigrant populations, as with the United States history, your entrepreneurs, your innovators,
right.
Hardworking, striving, for their families to thrive and do well, like any other family. So absolutely. And being a welcoming community bodes well in the future as well, because much of the population of Arkansas and the South in general will be dependent upon this growing population. Many of us that are native born are aging, getting older.
Right.
This is actually the newer, more vibrant population that's coming. And again, as I mentioned, their kids are now in elementary and middle school, so that in another 5 to 10 years, they actually will be the new residents.
Right.
Of Jonesboro,
right.
Not just the state, but of Jonesboro and the state of Arkansas.
Right.
So yes, being accessible, being open, working even in building relationships. It's important that we understand one another, that we embrace the different cultures as opposed to reject
right.
or make fun of or isolate or intentionally segregate.
Right.
That there's much that can be done on both sides to ensure that Jonesboro is a beautiful place to live, not just segments of Jonesboro.
I heard on the radio this morning on the way to work that Iceland is the #1 country for being welcoming. It was voted #1 by the entire world of places to visit because they're so welcoming. And I thought to myself, how cool would that be for Jonesboro to be #1 in welcoming cities? So,
absolutely.
Maybe this is where we could start.
Yes.
Very interesting data. I love this. I'm a data nerd at heart, and so I just love hearing all about this. I hope you'll come back, talk to us again sometime. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you.